Alright, so today we're going to look at a problem. X squared plus y squared equals 7. X cubed plus y cubed equals 10. And they're asking us what is x plus y. So the first thing we need to recognize is that this x cubed plus y cubed, it is the equivalent of x plus y multiplied by x squared minus xy plus y squared. That equals x cubed plus y cubed. Okay, so what we can do here is we can replace this with 10. Okay, we can replace that with 10. And then what do we see over here? Well, first of all, x squared plus y squared. That we can see from here, this equation right here, that is indeed 7. So we can replace these two with 7. And since we're trying to figure out x plus y and not what is x and what is y, we can assume that this is a. Okay, so what we can do here is we can input this a into this equation. So we end up with a times 7 minus xy equals 10. Now we can multiply the a inside now. So we get 7a minus xya equals 10. All right. Now the next one, x squared plus y squared. Now what does that equal? This x plus y squared, this equals x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. Now, what's extra over here? Well, we have the extra 2xy, right? So let's take away the 2xy from here, and that gives us a result of 7, because x squared plus y squared equals 7. That is given to us. Now, the next step we can do here is we can also input this a over here. So now we end up with a squared minus 2xy equals 7. Now what we can see here is that apart from having the a as the same thing between these two equations, we also have a common xy. So we can use input to input this into this equation. So let's use that now. We can do xy equals 7a minus 10 divided by a. That is what we can input into this equation. Okay, this xy we can input with this. A squared minus 2 times 7a minus 10 divided by a, okay, equals 7. All right. So now we can open this up by multiplying this with that and multiplying this with that. A squared minus 14a plus 20a, no a, sorry, divided by a equals 7. Now, what we can do is, because we have an a in the denominator here, right, it's quite annoying to deal with, we can multiply this entire thing by a. All right, so a cubed minus 14a plus 20 equals 7a. Now we can take away 7a on both sides. Okay, now we have a standard polynomial or quadratic format. All right. So from here, we can solve for this. Well, first of all, we can use guess and check. A equals 1. That's just like, you can look at it, you just know that is the correct answer because you can just see 1 minus 21 is negative 20. All right. Plus 20 equals 0. So one of the factors of this equation is a plus 1. Or sorry, a minus 1. Because the answer is 1. Alright. Now, using this, we can determine, well, if we have an a cubed here, we need an a squared to match up with that, right? So a cubed minus a squared, right? And because we don't have an a squared in this equation, we have to add an a squared here, right? So that's one group, a squared. We have to take away an a. Now what do we have left here? We have left negative 20a. All right, negative 20a. And that matches up perfectly with plus 20, which we already have over here. So the equation from here, this is a squared, right? A squared times this equals that, right? And then we have plus a, okay? a times this equals this, all right? And then minus 20. So that is our second quadratic. This equals 0. Okay, so now we can factorize this, okay? So after we factorize this, what do we get? We can factorize this, -4 and 5, 1 and 1, okay? So a minus 4, a plus 5, and then over here, a minus 1, we just take this down here. How do we know this is correct? Because -4 times plus positive 5 is indeed -20, and their sum is indeed a, okay? And that equals 0. So now we end up with 3 answers for this. We get a equals 1, a equals 4, and a equals -5. So that is the answer to this question. Now in this question, what skills have we used? Well, first of all, over here, we used input. Okay, we used input, which is used to solve system of equations. Okay, that's the first thing we used. Well, I guess the first thing we used is actually these equations. So this equation and this equation, this one right here. These two equations, yes, they are very useful. So these two equations. And then in the third one, we used factorization, as we did over here. This one. This is factorization. And then over here, this skill is called guess and check. All right, so what is guess and check? Guess and check is guessing a number, for example, 0, inputting it into the equation and seeing if it works. So 0, does it work? Not really, right? 0, 0, so you get positive 20. Does -1 work? Not really, right? -1, 21, that's like 40, I believe. And then positive 1, does this work? Well, it turns out it does work. It gives us 0. So we can use this and continue on with that until we get to 1 where it does indeed equal 0. So that is another skill we learned. So in this mathematical equation, a system of equations, x squared plus y squared equals 7, x cubed plus y cubed equals 10, and x plus y, we're solving for that. We have 4 skills that we used. Input in system of equations, factorization of polynomials, and guess and check also in polynomials. And finally, we also use these equations, x plus y squared, x plus y times x squared minus xy plus y squared. These are just good equations to have in your head while you're solving these questions.